and I made a funny sequence of making coffee. How fun is that? I guess that's what vlogging is. You just make funny little pieces of filmmaking and then you talk to the camera. That's all it is, turns out. I'm surprised. But today, what we're talking about is the scariest flight of my life. When I say the scariest flight of my life, I also mean the best flight of my life. Weird how that worked out. Here's a little backstory on the flight. In July of this year, I bought a truck off of Craigslist for $800. A little Ford Ranger, 2-wheel drive. It was Grandpa's truck and it like smelled like cigarette smoke, and he had cut out part of the seat to make this cup holder, and it ran like shit. Still kind of does run like shit, but I have tuned it up, cleaned it, put a camper shell on it, put a bed in the back of it, and on August 1st, I hit the road for a 2-week-long road trip. I went to Joseph, Oregon, where we did some paragliding, some acrobatics, some hiking. Then I went to Leavenworth, Washington. I was by myself. I had never been there. I drove myself up to the top of the mountain and I hiked out and I found the launch. At noon on August 6th, I launched off of Tumwater Mountain in Leavenworth, Washington under what looked like a pretty promising sky. Let's get into this. Clip I'm going to show you, I'm already flying. Not that high. I spent the first hour and a half of my flight under 9,000 feet, and I'm looking for thermals. And here I'm in a little bit of climb. You can hear the beep, beep, beep of my Vario very faintly. I finally get up. I finally get up to about 9,000 feet. Across the valley from me, in the distance you can see, is Tumwater Mountain. Wait, no. What is that? Yeah, it is Tumwater Mountain. There's this other beautiful peak over here. I think that is Tumwater Mountain. Did I launch from Tumwater? I don't know. I'd never been here before. I don't know the names of all this shit. I don't know the names of the peaks. I'm very unfamiliar, and I'm flying by myself with no information, no map. As you can see, I'm heading across the valley, and I've sped it up because this kind of gives you an idea. That's 7 times speed. The paraglider essentially does 20 miles an hour, or 25, or 30 maybe if you're going fast. And so it's like racing a butterfly in the sky. And I know there's going to be a lot of paraglide pilots watching this, but for those of you who don't paraglide, let me give you a little information about what you're looking at here. So here, this is from my helmet cam, and this big black thing that you see out in front of me, it is exactly what you think it is. That's my those are my legs. Yeah, those are my legs. And they're in a pod, and it keeps it warm, it makes me more aerodynamic. The long and short of it is I'm essentially looking for thermals, right? Rising air that's created by the sun heating up the ground. And in these mountain ranges where there's mountain and mountain and mountain and mountain, you have wind going from one direction, you have the sun going from the other direction. These forces are sometimes aligned and it makes it really smooth. Sometimes they're opposite. The wind is coming from one way, the sun is coming from the other way, and it can make it really rough, as we'll see later in this video. So here I am, starting to get tall. As you can see, my views are getting really, really good. It's so beautiful here. Every second of this flight is blowing my mind. There's some alpine lake there on the far right that you can see, just a beautiful green. There's like glaciers up there. So now I'm gonna leave Tumwater Mountain, and my tentative plan is I'm hoping to make it to Mount Stewart, right? And back. So here I am, I'm on glide. I'm heading directly into the wind on this glide, towards the ridge that they call Jack Ridge that's north of Mount Stewart. So I'm probably at 11,000 feet here, 11.5. I'm way up over the top of the peaks. But as I said, I'm going into the wind, which makes my glide ratio not great. As I'm on this glide, I'm basically looking down below me and I'm seeing that there is nowhere for me to land. It's either steep boulder gardens or nothing but pine trees. There's lakes down there which have like maybe a little tiny shore, or I could land in the water or something. It's just like the options are really bad. And my big fear here is that I'll end up behind Jack Ridge, where I'm going into the headwind, looking to go fly over Jack Ridge. But if I come in below Jack Ridge, the wind is doing this, it's gonna whack my glider and it's gonna collapse, and then I'm gonna have to turn around and run away from it, and There's just nowhere to land, and it's totally fucked. That can't happen. That just cannot happen. But I keep gliding. I stay the course. I stay patient here, and I end up making it over Jack Ridge just by a hair. And it's probably 200 feet that I make it over Jack Ridge here. And right when I get over Jack Ridge, I start flying into lift, which going from flying in sync to not knowing you're going to make it to flying in lift is a huge relief, and I just think, oh, thank God. Also, it's hard to see from the GoPro, but this whole area is covered in forest fire trees. Like, all these trees are like dead skags. They're just like needles sticking out of the ground. So as I fly over different surfaces, it just gives me a different feeling. Like if I fly over nice green grass, it makes me feel, oh, it's soft. Or if I fly over sand, I think, oh, it's soft, I want to play in it. When I fly over like big sharp rocks, or if I fly over those trees, it just gives me this feeling of like, in my mind, I think of getting skewered as I get impaled by the rocks and the trees. So the whole area is kind of a nerve-wracking place to fly. Really deep in the mountains here. At this point, I'm not seeing any roads. There's trails, walking trails, but man, I've got a 45-pound kit here. If I land out, I'm gonna have to walk for a dozen miles with 45 pounds on a trail I don't know which way to go. I don't really have a map. And the more I say that, the dumber it sounds. The stupidness is not lost on me, folks. And we're going to get to that. Okay, so I'm over Jack Ridge. I'm flying in lift. And let's just take a moment. Holy shit, where am I in the world? It's so beautiful. And what an amazing thing to do to get a view, right? Oh, as I turn back downwind here in the climb, you can see Mount Stewart again looming. Just a big, scary monster. And that is my goal. And I think at this point, I'm probably getting a little eager to get over to it. So as I start kind of going downwind, the wind, as I go here, the wind is coming from the right, and it's coming up this face. And so I'm kind of going downwind, and I fly over to this thing, and I find a climb. There it is. I find a climb, I find a climb, I find a climb. And it was a pretty decent climb. And so what I need to do now is to have a bunch of courage and big brass balls and make a huge committing move to go to Mount Stewart. No. What I need to do is have patience. And I need to milk this climb and get to the top of it and then go to Mount Stewart. But that's not what I do. I go with the big brass balls thing, and I just point it right onto the face of Mount Stewart. I'm thinking, oh, Mount Stewart, I'm coming for you. So here I am. I'm going to paste it right onto the face of this thing. Look at this thing. Oh my God, it's the scariest mountain I've ever seen. Look at these towers. As we get closer here, you can see all these little towers, rock spire, rock spire, rock spire, rock spire, and exactly the same feeling. It feels like I'm flying in Morador, and that I just envision myself getting impaled on sharp rocks as I come plummeting out of the sky. But at the same time, I'm really loving it, and the air is good today, and I don't know, paragliding, wow, weird thing. But look at this mountain. Look at that thing. Holy shit, it's incredible. My mind is just absolutely blown. Here I am. I'm in a climb. I'm going up this corner. I'm going up, I'm going up, I'm going up. And again, what I should do is have a bunch of courage and make some big committing move. No, what I should do is have patience. I need to just stay here on the front of this mountain, okay? The wind on my indicator, I remember it was showing me 9 to 11 kilometer an hour wind from the valley, going right up the mountain. And I should just stay in front of the mountain and just wait for the next thermal, kind of search around for it. But that's not what I do. As I look onto the west face of this, I see the sun is just hitting it perfectly. It's a big, giant boulder face of black rock. I just imagine there's no way that there's not a thermal coming up off of those rocks, right? So what do? I make the big, huge committing move to fly downwind, relatively low, on the side of Mount Stewart, in a place that I have no idea what's behind it. I don't know if there's any LZs back there. I don't know where I am. No one else knows where I am. And I'm really looking for a thermal, and I'm looking out into this valley. I'm not seeing any LZs. There's nowhere for me to land. It's just a sea of trees. Not to mention, there's no roads. I can hardly see a trail. I have no idea how far it is to walk out of there. I imagine infinity far because it's so deep. And so at this point, I'm a little concerned. As I fly downwind here, I see that the wind goes from what I was seeing at the front of the mountain was 9 to 11 kilometers an hour. Now I'm getting 27 kilometers an hour, and I'm thinking, oh God, what am I doing? I'm on the side of this mountain in the Venturi. The wind's whipping around the mountain, and now I'm gonna get blown into the lee side, which is exactly what happens here, folks. Here I am, frustrated and scared, and so, what do I say? Fuck, yeah, that's right, fuck, and then I scream. There's the scream. At this point, I'm saying, Mount Stewart, I'm so sorry I called you bitch. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I swear to God, if you just let me live, I swear I will never fly back here again. I swear to God, I'll go turn on my spot. Right now, I'll go register it. I'm sorry I'm so cheap. I know I should have had it. My friends bothered me about that. I know that I should have told my flight plan. I shouldn't be flying alone. I'm so sorry, Mount Stewart. Please just let me live. You live, you learn, huh? Anyway, now, oh God. Here the air gets a little rough because I find the lee side thermal. Whoa, whoa, crazy. I'm in a crazy place, but I'm in lift. So I turn back into the wind. The wind is so strong that the glider's not fast enough and I'm actually going backwards. But I'm going backwards and I'm going up, which is an important, important part of that. And so I find the lift and I stay in it, which feels good, but still nerve-wracking. And I climb and climb and climb and climb out here. And now this look at Mount Stewart, and I'm thinking, thank you, Mount Stewart. I'm sorry I was disrespectful. Thank you for letting me live. Please let me just get out of your hair here and I'll go register my spot immediately. My friends have always bothered me about not having a spot, which is a GPS tracker. But one of my greatest skills that I've acquired in my life that's allowed me to do shit like this is that I'm very frugal. And the other word for frugal is cheap. And I didn't want to spend $300 on a spot and then $100 something a year on it. So I just went without it. And then at this moment, all the things that my friends had ever told me about why I needed that all came crashing down onto my head. And when I yell fuck, I'm basically yelling, I'm an idiot. I'm so cheap. What were you thinking? Why don't you have a spot flying by yourself in these huge mountains? Okay? It's not lost on me, folks. Mount Stewart insisted that I register my spot, and I did. Oh my God, finally gonna climb. Thank God. The climb feels so good. Getting some altitude, haha, going up. But here's the thing, my GoPro's dying, so we're gonna have just a quick finish here. But what happens is, I fly away from Mount Stewart, and I fly onto this next peak. My GoPro dies, but my track log from my cell phone app showed that I went up 2,000 vertical feet in 1 minute. That's right, folks. 2,000 feet in a minute. It was terrifying. It was such a ripping thermal. It's funny because as you're low, you're like, come on, give it to me, I'll take whatever you got. And then it gives you what it's got, and you're like, so I say goodbye to Mount Stewart. This is the next clip that I have, and you can see I'm really close to the clouds. I'm almost at 14,000 feet here. The climb that I went up 2,000 feet in a minute, that climb took me all the way to cloud base. And you can see right here, I'll pause it. That is the Enchantments Basin. And it's so beautiful. Here I am. I glide all the way from the Enchantments Basin, and I fly to Wenatchee, Washington. This is where I was staying with my friend. I arrive over Wenatchee with tons of altitude. So you can see that in the pocket of this, my harness, I have a carrot. That was my snack for the day. And when I launched, it didn't look too bad, but when I landed, it was so haggard and floppy and gross. And I was like, that is not a good in-flight snack. Fucking carrot, what an idiot. Anyway, I arrive over Wenatchee with tons of altitude. I land down at the Wenatchee High School football field where my friend Max is waiting for me because as I came in, I pulled my cell phone out and said, hey Max, where are you? He said, oh, I'm here at the house. I said, do you see me? I'm over the house. He said, oh my God, I see you. Which is pretty awesome. We went and got pizza. We drank a beer. Hope you like that. I wanted to tell this story. I hope it comes across to you as amazing as it was for me. The mountains there are just so beautiful. I'd definitely be back next year to try to top that flight with a spot, with a GPS tracker, with the Coast Guard and the Air Force, everyone knowing my track log and everyone knowing my URL to follow me. And yeah, so that's the takeaway here is get all the gizmos and shit so that your buddies can see where you are and tell people where you're going, and be safe. You know, you want to do the things that keep you safe out there. And on the other side of that, just get out there and push it. Don't wait for your buddies. Don't blow in everyone else's wind. Don't wait for them to be motivated to do something for you to be motivated to do it. Just go do it. And it feels so much better. It feels incredibly adventurous. And I think one of the main reasons I want to share this video with you is because I had no one to share it with that day. And it was an incredible experience. I honestly think that flight, that day, was one of the biggest adventures of my entire life. I've been on a lot of adventures. I think that was one of the biggest adventures of my entire life because I did it solo. I did it by myself. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know the region. I didn't know all the information about the local flying and the mountains and the wind and blah, blah, blah. I just went and figured it out on my own. And that's not something that I'm super versed in either. I'm not a solo adventurer. I have great friends and I've made amazing partners through adventuring like this. But I don't really do things solo. This is my most adventurous flight ever. I'm so glad it all worked out. I learned so much. I hope that you learned something here, whether that's just what paragliding is, or whether that the big black thing is not actually a pilot's penis, but is in fact his legs. Anyway, thanks for watching. You should subscribe to my videos. I think YouTubers say that at the end of their videos. They say subscribe. They also say like do the like thing. They also say like buy my merch. I don't have any merch, but I think I should. Did I have another joke I wanted to tell? I think I did. Maybe I forgot it. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one, right?